Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Hobby Musician, and welcome to the Workbench. If you didn't catch last episode, I'll put a link up at the top. We are continuing on with an unboxing and my adventure into the world of multi-scale instruments. And in the last video, I noticed a couple of things that I wanted to do just to improve the already good playability of this instrument. And those two things that I noticed were that some of the fret edges, as you get really high up on the neck, seem to start to get a little scratchy. So I want to do some polishing of those frets. And then the second thing that I noticed is just the way that they set this up at the factory. The string height, the action on this bass is a little bit higher than I would prefer it. So those are the two things that I noticed in the last video. And then as I was getting ready to do this one, there's a third thing, a little surprise that I'll save for the end of the video. One more little modification that I'm going to make to this. All right, to get started, we're going to use, the only tool I need for this fret polishing is this little file. Now I got this file from Stuart McDonald, not a sponsor, but when I went on their website, this is specifically designed for this exact job. It's designed and modeled after just your normal fingernail file, except it has 3 different areas and they're colored differently. So the black section is the most coarse or the grittiest sandpaper, and then you move to the white section, that's a little bit more fine, and then if you flip the file over, the entire backside is the finest, the smoothest of the sandpaper, and that's for your final polishing. I mean, it's so fine that if you run your finger across it, you can't even tell, really you can't feel that it's sandpaper at all. But the way you use this, you basically go up and down the neck of whatever you're trying to polish, and you find the scratchy parts. I'm going to pick one of these high frets up here. I'll kind of turn this so you can see it. But once you find the high, the scratchy edge of the fret, you start with the most coarse area of the file. So I'm going to take this black section, and you just like it's a fingernail, you put a little bit of pressure on it, and kind of, I like to rotate my hand just kind of back and forth a little bit as I grind, and what that does is any piece of the fret that's sticking out that you could catch your finger on as you're moving up and down the neck, that's going to grind it down. And so you kind of file it a little bit, and after you file it just a little bit, I take my finger and I kind of run it back, and you can start to feel it's getting a little smoother. And then when you're ready, you move to the white section to get a little more fine. And when you grind that down just a little bit, you keep checking it, run my finger over, it's getting a little smoother. And then at the very end, if you want to put that final polish to get it to shine just like the rest of the fret, you flip it over to the back side, the gray side, and this entire side is that polishing side. So then, just like you've been doing, you can even hear the difference. It's so fine that it doesn't even sound like sandpaper anymore. But you just rotate your hand back and forth, and then when you get done, you have a shiny fret edge that is no longer, when you run it up and down, I can feel scratching until that fret, and then if I keep going, I feel scratching again, and that's how you do it. And you just go every single fret edge on both the top and the bottom of the neck, and you will have a much smoother neck finish to those edges. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go along and I'm going to really spend more time on these higher frets, but I'll just for good measure, I'll kind of take a look at these lower frets. So, all right, time to get to work. Okay, well that part is finished. All of the fret edges are nicely polished, and even just, even smoother than they were before. So the neck is feeling great. So that second part of this project, like I talked about at the beginning of the video, is I want to take a look at the string action. And when we were doing the unboxing, this particular model, they sent the two different Allen wrenches that you're going to need. We said the bigger one is for making truss rod adjustments, and the smaller Allen wrench that they included is for changing things like intonation and string height. And if you look on this base, each string, each saddle for the strings does have two little Allen wrenches on either side. And I checked real quick, and this particular model, if you unscrew or if you're kind of loosening the Allen wrench, it actually lets the saddle fall closer down into the bridge, and that's going to lower the string. And if you tighten this, each of these set screws or Allen screws, it's going to then drive the Allen screw down into the bridge, which raises the saddle. So that's how you can make those string adjustments. So what I'm going to do to check this is I also have one of these fret guides. Now this particular one, this is a Fret Guru 2, again not a sponsor, but I just picked this up on Amazon, and these types of things are incredibly helpful. On every single edge of these they have really useful scales. They've got a couple inches marked off in 32nd inch increments, are very precise. I've just kind of remembered my settings or the string heights that I like to use in a millimeter scale. So just right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this straight edge and I'm going to place it on the 12th fret, and then I'm just going to look to see where the string hits this gauge. And I know for me, on some of the other bases that I've set up, I like to have the lower, thicker strings at about 2 millimeters, just maybe a touch over 2 millimeters, and then as the strings get skinnier, the higher they go, then I kind of bring it down to maybe just under 2 millimeters for that last string. So like I said, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this at the 12th fret, and if I look down here, yeah, the string is hitting the gauge just a touch over the 2 millimeter mark right here on this gauge. So I'm going to take our Allen wrench that came with it, oops, and I'm going to go down here to the saddle, and I'm just going to give them just maybe a half turn. So I'm going to loosen it about a half turn, and then this one has an Allen wrench on either side. So you want to do the same thing to both sides when you're making these adjustments. So I'm in the second one, I'm going to make a half turn there. And you can kind of, sometimes you just press it with your finger to make sure that the tension of the string wasn't holding the saddle just artificially in place, but you kind of push it down, make sure it's hitting, and then we check again. So yeah, it came down a little bit, but it's still got a ways to go. So I'm going to go through and once again I'm going to just kind of make small adjustments like this, about a half turn, and then I go into the next Allen screw and then a half turn, and then I'm going to push it down, make sure it sets in there really quick, and then check it again. And yep, we're making progress. We're almost there. So I'm going to go through, get to work on this, and then we'll come back and check in. Okay, that is 2 parts of this video done. We got the string height fixed, we got the fret edges polished, and at the beginning I promised you a surprise, and this is what it is. The more I've been working with this bass, I've started to decide that I want to adjust this switch, the active-passive switch that engages the electronics, and I'll kind of take you through my thought process. For a lot of my playing career, I've played a lot of strats, and my brain, when I'm thinking about a switch that selects something, I think about a pickup selector. And so if I'm holding a strat, if I want to select the pickups that are closer to the neck, I move the switch towards the neck. And if I want to select the pickups that are towards the bridge, I move the switch towards the bridge. And so the direction the switch is pointing is kind of connected in my subconscious with the direction of the thing that I'm selecting. Well, one of the things that is true about this particular model, when it came, The three smaller knobs are the ones that control the active electronics. So if I'm thinking that I want to engage the electronics, it's these three knobs that are going to control that. So my brain is thinking I want the switch pointing, but in fact I discovered that pointing the switch this way is what essentially turns it on. And so the switch is pointing away from the thing that my brain is telling me that I want to select. So I wanted to change that. I want to rotate this switch so that the on position is pointing down towards these and the off position is pointing up towards the knobs that would just control, you know, the passive side. So in order to do that, I went to the back here and I unscrewed and took off the cover for the electronics cavity. And when I looked inside, I can see that right here is the component. This is the back side of the switch on the front of the guitar. And I looked at it and I wanted to check to see if this was possible, but you can see that there is excess. When they soldered all of the wire connectors in here, there's actually some play in those wires. And what that's going to allow me to do is I can go to the front, I can loosen the switch, and then by watching the wires, I can rotate this piece, get it, and then just kind of check back and forth. And when I have it in the position that I want, I just tighten it back up on the front, and then I can basically make the switch point whatever way I want. So here's how we do that. I am going to take just a normal pair of pliers, and it's important that they've got kind of a flat top to them, and I'm going to come straight down on this switch because there is a nut and a washer that's screwed down on top, and all I want to do is I just want to loosen that a little bit because it's the tension of that washer that's keeping the switch locked into place. So I'm going to come straight down on top of this. I'm going to be very careful. I want to grip the washer and just start to loosen it, and I'm being really careful. I don't want to slip and put a scratch on the finish or anything like that, but just a little bit of loosening of that, and I think just maybe one more turn here, and as soon as you loosen it just a little bit, pretty soon it gets finger loose. So it's just that initial thing that you need the pliers for, and then right now, and as I say that, I need one more turn. Okay, I think, yep, there we go. Now it's loose. So now what this means is I could from the front, the switch is wiggling around now. So I'm going to flip this over to the back, and I am going to, while I'm watching this switch, I'm going to start to take and very carefully, I'm going to rotate this switch. And as you can see, I'm rotating the component back here, but if I go back to the front and check, I can see, I don't know, you might not see that on the camera, but the switch itself is moving. So I'm going to come back and watch this and get this turned as far as I can, and just keeping in mind I want to keep all of the wires loose so that they're not bumping into anything, and I don't want any of the connections to come out or come undone or anything like that. And if I turn it more and I want to check to see, oh, we're almost there. Keep turning just a little bit more, and basically we're just redirecting one of the selector switches. If I look up, I'm almost there. There's a little notch that I'm watching, guys. And the notch points in the direction of wherever the on switch is. So if I look at the front of the guitar, I'm watching where the on is, and right about now, the on is pointing straight down. And so if I switch this now, this is off, and this is on, and it's pointing straight down. So what I'm going to do right now, while I'm holding on the back side, I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to just tighten that nut that we loosened to get this thing started in the first place. And when I do that, it should hold itself in position, and if it does, we have successfully reoriented this selector switch. And right there, guys, it's feeling pretty tight. So if I let go, I look back here, yeah, we're all good. We got all the wires. They all still have their excess play, so Everything still fits inside this cavity. And if I come back up here to the front, now my on is pointing towards the three knobs that control the active section, and my off is pointing away from them. So mission accomplished. Well guys, thanks for watching this episode, and hope you were able to learn something. Maybe you can try it with some of your own instruments. So stay tuned, we got more content coming soon, and until next time guys, play on my friends, play on.